What up, guys? Jason Geiman here with PressureWashHelp.com, King of Pressure Washing. And today I have a special guest on. We're going to talk a little bit about starting, growing businesses and ways to scale your business. Things that you can do that will help you grow your business. Things that, how to hire somebody, all of the fun things of growing a pressure washing, window cleaning business. Now, this person that I have on today, she doesn't love pressure washing. She did pressure washing, but she was a big time window cleaning. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where you're from? Do you have kids? Any of that kind of fun stuff?
Thank you. So I'm Melody Edwards. I used to own A1 Window Cleaning and then Renew Window Cleaning. I started off, well, I'll say I have a family. I have two kids who are 11 and 22, so I have all the kids' ages, and I'm married. I've been in the window cleaning world since I was 17 years old. A family friend owned a business, and I needed a job. And he was nice enough to take me on. I hated it because that was not the job I had envisioned doing, like after graduating high school. But I wanted money for Europe. I was saving money to travel, so I did it. And then I kept going back to it over and over. And eventually, I found out that I love working with my hands. I love doing all the things that pressure washing and window cleaning businesses require on the technical side. I will say, I did say I didn't like pressure washing. I love pressure washing for myself, like if it's my house or something, or my whatever it might be. I did not like the business of pressure washing because after being an expert in something for so long as like a window cleaner, coming into pressure washing as a baby, as like a newbie, is really, really hard. So I did not like the part where I wasn't the expert. Um, so anyway, but we did do pressure washing on and off for about 4 years of my window cleaning
And
business.
where are you located at again?
Western Massachusetts,
So you're
the
up north, huh?
Northeast. Yeah, one of those northerners. So
So how your last business? How many employees did you have as you had grown your business?
So at the most, I usually would have 6 employees just for window cleaning. That was the most I had. I I have a different thing than I think most everybody else does because I am a mom and I have child rearing responsibilities on the side of business too because my husband has a normal 9 to 5 job. So, or 7 to 5 job really is what it comes down to. So there was a lot that I decided to kind of sacrifice in my business world so that I could be there for my kids. I wasn't there when my daughter was younger because I was hustling a lot with window cleaning. And I really understand what you miss because she's 22 now. My son is 11. So I really focused in on him. So 6 was like what I could do with, 2 crews. I had somebody always helping with the office, which is what allowed me to have time to do other things in my life. And so, yeah. And one thing I will say is most people don't get an office person right away or an assistant or anything. I always considered that to be a part of my own salary because I know myself. I hated phone calls, emails, all of the things that you have to do to run a business. I would fight. And it was so worth the money to me to just pay somebody else to do it.
Yeah, and so let's talk about a little bit about because I know Rob Anderson. He always said that he's kind of up by your way of. He always said that the whole thing of hiring an office person versus how that can actually help you and
Oh, yeah.
grow your business and that is one of the things that I think a lot of times people don't realize of how just by answering the phone by taking that because I always tell people when we have a business there's different tasks that we do. A technician on the spray gun is a $15 to $20 an hour task. So if we the business owner is on that task, that means we're not working on tasks that make us the 50 $100,000 an hour task. And it can
Yeah.
go with the same way with even on the phone. If we're on the phone and we're answering the phone and everything, again, that can be a $15 an hour, $20 an hour task that
Yeah.
can help us get to where we need to be. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna confess that most of my marketing in the years up until the most recent years was all word of mouth because it was just natural growth. I had a good reputation, and it was just constant, exponential growth once you've started. But what that allowed me to do is to not answer the phone, which is like the biggest no-no of business. I sometimes, this is so embarrassing, but sometimes I would go like 3 or 4 days without returning calls. But I had a message on my phone that said, we're out working in the field right now, or we're out cleaning windows, but we return all calls in the order received. And that one little statement made it so that people wouldn't call me over and over again. And they just all kind of trusted. And I said, for faster response, email, and I left, and it worked. I did most of my communication by email after that.
So you said you did most of your word of mouth. How did you in the beginning get that kind of that ball rolling to be able to get those clients of getting to the word of mouth?
A lot of networking. I think that I'm a little different because I've always approached the industry differently. I think as a woman, I've always had a different point of view of what women want. Women are mostly our customers when we're doing residential work. And so I've always had an edge on understanding the kind of experience that a woman would want to have and the kind of communication, everything. So that's kind of what I designed my business around. And because of that, I was able to grow pretty fast. And because, people, and especially women, like to help people. And so if you ask, can you please tell your friends about us, or can you please leave me that a Google review? That would mean so much to me. That makes a big difference.
And that
And
goes back to what I've always said. The whole thing. There's two things. Obviously, we're working on that 5-star review from the very beginning, and
yeah,
then not only that, which I've just kind of started hitting on this quite a bit here lately. Of is, hey, will you share me out on your favorite social media thing? Because
yeah.
that right there can. I mean, I know a guy when I was in Texas. He's like, one lady on next door has gotten me $10,000 this month.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
so that is the importance of saying that. And I've always said that a female can close way more than a male on the phone because, a lot of times us guys always want to be like the thing we use this pressure and soft
yeah.
and and
They
like
don't
we
care.
said, the female is our customer and they don't care about that.
No, we don't actually want to hear. I mean, I'm a consumer of services now myself, so I can say I am the customer now in some ways. But I don't want to hear any of that stuff. I want somebody who will listen to what I have to say and not, look down or talk down to me, because it's not rare that a lot of times service people aren't patient with women, customers, or even men, and they don't take the time to listen or even to just have a friendly conversation. And that makes all the difference because women seek connection. So that's kind of what I was good at.
So you have hired and fired people, and so what are some
Mhm.
tips on the hiring side as of the technician side of things?
Yeah, that's the hardest thing with business, isn't it? I got pretty good. I think one thing, again, that's different is that I'm not afraid to be different in our advertising. I'm not afraid to put my personality, which is the personality of the business, out into the world in our advertising, and everything that we do. So when hiring, I would actually advertise like in the beginning, way back, I was writing like, do you like long walks on the beach? Do you like being outside? All kinds of crazy, ridiculous things, but I would pepper it in with things that we actually do. I didn't talk about the tasks. And one of the things I learned from Kurt Kempton long, long ago, who I think learned it from Zappos, I stole this from somebody, is I always would start by saying we're a customer service company that just happens to clean windows, because it really is so descriptive of what we do. And it was just, you catch people with that, you catch their eye, you kind of catch their spirit, and the people that I end up attracting are the exact people I would want to work at a customer's house. In the beginning, I didn't know how to advertise, and I would get all sorts of thugs working for me. I had a guy one time who worked for me who I found out was an addict, and he peed on somebody's front lawn, a customer's. I saw it with my own eyes, but I didn't believe it because that's not a thing people do. And I'm very naive about things like that. So I was like, no, I must be wrong. I can't be seeing this. So like I've had a lot of hard things happen with hiring, but I would say there are two things that I've learned with hiring that have helped me tremendously to find really good people. And I'll give these tips out. One is that I interview early in the morning, as early as we start work, sometimes usually a half hour earlier. I would usually interview. So the time would probably be about 7 a.m. You can learn so much about a person by how they act at 7 a.m. If they come in and they still are looking sleepy and you ask them, hey, what time do you usually wake up in the morning? They're going to answer honestly, whether they want to or not, because they're not awake yet enough to figure out what they should say. I've had people say, oh, usually between 10 and 11 o'clock. And then you can see actually people who come in and they have a sparkle in their eye and they're morning people. They're excited to be there. Those are the people that I want working for me. And let me say, last year and the year before, I almost had nobody who was ever late. In fact, I was usually the latest one to come in. Everybody was usually 10 to 15 minutes early. And that was incredible to me. That had never happened because before that, it had always been the late issue. And that's one of the reasons. The other thing I look for when I'm interviewing is before somebody walks in the door, I watch how they walk. Do they walk with a sense of purpose when they're coming in? They don't even know that I'm watching them yet. Or do they walk like they're in their head? Their head is in the clouds. They're a slow walker. That right there is also a big key for me. Are they going to be efficient on the job? Are they thinking ahead? Are they planning for the next problem they're going to run into? I would say those two tips alone will help people to find the right kind of people to
That's
hire.
that's some good information there, Melody.
Yeah.
I always hated the hiring and firing processes. That's one of the things that I always dreaded. And you talking about the pen, we right when after I sold my business and I was still doing the marketing. I went to the office the one day and the office manager was like, "Look at this picture here," and she showed me on the computer, and one of the employees was sitting there peeing, and it was right underneath the camera.
Oh my God.
And and the customer was pissed off,
Oh my God. Yes. Of
and so
course.
it was funny. And then it wasn't too much longer than that. A good friend of mine, DJ, he lives in a neighborhood group, and they were getting a new roof put on, and
Mm.
the camera across the street caught the guy peeing on there. And so this isn't about that, but just remember there is cameras everywhere.
Well, it is true. I trained my employees in the etiquette, customer etiquette, and I talked about that because they're like, for instance, just even going into a customer's house and using their bathroom, a lot of guys would leave the toilet seat up because that's what they do. I trained my employees always put the toilet seat back down because no woman likes to go into a bathroom after it's been used and have that seat up. It's just a little bit annoying, but it sticks in your head.
Right.
So the same thing with cameras. There are cameras everywhere.
Yeah, there
People
is.
are watching.
So, what are some things that helped you grow your business to where you got it to?
Well, I would say like it was more of a natural progression. But one thing was when COVID hit, um, I wasn't sure if my business was going to make it because I'm in Massachusetts. We were one of the first states to shut down and shut down early. And I had pressure washing friends who kept going, but I wasn't doing pressure washing at that time. And I also didn't feel comfortable about doing the work. I'm not like somebody who can apologize later.
Right.
I'm an ask questions first kind of person. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and I realized I just had to go and do everything that I'd always wanted to do with my business to make it work. And so a couple things that I did that were really key. One was that started. I wrapped our vans with a very distinctive caricature and logo. I had it done, and the caricature is me kind of as Rosie the Riveter figure. And then it's very colorful, it's very eye-catching. And I don't look at it as me on the van. I look at it as kind of like the everybody loves Rosie the Riveter. Conservatives love her, liberals love her. There's nobody who doesn't love her for some reason. So I figured like the nostalgia of it would really catch people, and it did. It was very, very popular. People everywhere talked about it. The other thing that I did was I started advertising on National Public Radio, which I always knew from being in the customers' houses over many years, almost everybody listens to National Public Radio here who hires us. And so I knew that that was the place that I would need to hire to eventually be able to grow. And because we lost most of our interior work last year, I knew that we were going to have to get twice as much work. So I ended up doing that. And it really got me very high quality, high priced jobs with the right kind of customer that we wanted. So it was really interesting.
Wait a minute. You mean not everybody's not your customer?
Absolutely not. No, I don't want to work for everybody. Everybody's the worst.
Um, but that's a good point of finding the right customer, finding the customers that are willing to pay you what you want, and that you can go the extra mile and do those things. And not only that customer, but the friends of those customers are the ones we want.
I can say, I want to give everybody a tip if they don't know who their customer is. Go figure out who your favorite 5 customers are, and they're most likely going to be women. And I'm talking residential. Commercial is a whole different game. But figure out even just 2 or 3 of your top customers, the ones that you love working for, that don't even bat an eye when you charge them. They're really nice, they're flexible. And then ask if they would be willing to talk to you, to have a conversation with you. And I've done this over and over with customers, and I just ask them not just about my business, but what they want in a customer service experience, what bad experiences they've had. People will tell you stories and will tell you what they don't want. They might not always know what they want even, but they can tell you what they don't want. And that can help you pinpoint your customer.
And some other questions. What are some? I mean, I'm thinking of some other questions. It's like, where do they shop at? Where do they? What kind of car do they have? How many kids do they have? What kind of pets do they have?
But
What?
usually you know that, well, not all the time. Window cleaning, we know that because we're usually in people's houses and we see everything.
Right.
But, you can get data, you can data mine your customer, list. You can take the top 100 customers that want to emulate their thing, and you can have somebody data mine those people to find out what kind of cars they drive and how many kids they have and how much money they make, all the stuff. And then you can use that list to find the people just like them.
Yes, and you used to do that a lot easier now, but now that AOI or now that Apple is kind of hitting with Facebook and stuff,
Yeah.
but there is still ways that you can data mine that stuff and get all that information.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's important because a lot of times we don't realize how important that is as business owners, and we don't know who our customer is at the end of the day. We put our stuff out there, and we might do Google ads, we might do all these other things to try to get customers. But a lot of this can even come down to the way your website looks, the way you do marketing. All of that is going to attract whether you get good customers or bad customers. If you're putting low end houses on your website, guess who you're going to probably get? You're
Yeah.
going to get the low end side. That's why a lot of the websites you look at that has the big, nice looking houses, and most of those houses aren't even dirty. But
Yeah.
that's why, because it's not about
Totally.
the dirtiness.
They maintain their homes. Yeah. I used to think that I should target the homes that looked the dirtiest, and then I realized, oh, they don't do it. They're just not doing it.
Exactly.
So I would say I've I've always been curious about how people view their customers. So I actually went back and looked and to see what percentage of my residential customers were women, and it was actually 85%. And I'm guessing most people are very similar in their statistics. But when I've asked guys like, hey, who's your customer? They can say, well, they make $150,000 or more and they live in this type of neighborhood and they drive this type of car. I'm like, but who are they? I'll be like, what do you mean? They do this or they do. I'm like, but who is the person? They never
Right.
get to the part where they're mostly women.
Right.
And so, even in the marketing, the branding of your company, don't brand it. If you're smart about it, you brand it for the customer, not for yourself. And a lot of times we brand things that look cool or that we feel are cool or like feel good to us, but that doesn't mean it's going to feel good to the person we're trying to reach.
No, that's 100% true. I know one of I don't know if he's on here tonight, but Jeremy Main, he rebranded all his stuff to um, the pink ribbon
Mm,
for breast
yeah.
cancer and stuff. He lost his mom when he was young,
Mm,
like 20 years old, and to breast cancer, and she was only 40, and
wow.
and so he rebranded, and when he did, it exploded on him. Literally exploded on him. He's
It's
called Pink Cleaners, is what he's called, and it
yeah,
just literally exploded.
because it feels approachable to me. Like that company feels very approachable, and it's very much speaking about the care that what they care about. A lot of businesses, you are just guessing who they are, what they do because they look the same. That's such a differentiation, and it's so targeted towards women, especially. It's really good.
Yep. So you've been in business long enough. Tell me one thing that you failed in business, and one or two things that you learned from it.
Oh my gosh. I've been in the window cleaning world for 28 years, and I've owned a business since 2004. And I've owned more than just I've done a lot of things. I'm very very ADD, in all the wrong words. In all the wrong ways. I was diagnosed when I was 30 years old, and up till then, I just always felt I was stupid or that I didn't know how to do things, even though I'm really smart. I could never do it the proper way, and most of us think we have to do business the proper way. But I've learned over time there is no proper way. There are good rules that you should follow, but some things work for some people and some things don't. And so some of the mistakes I've made, let me think, there are plenty. I mean, hiring, I've made a lot of hiring mistakes, like because I generally have gone with my gut and not with any and I trust people. Like I'm a person who trusts first, and I really, that's not the best way to hire people. um, so there have been way too many problems with hiring. My first employee, actually, after I bought my boss's business from him, ended up stealing two heirloom pieces of jewelry from two customers within the first month I owned the company. And that could have completely destroyed everything. I was very lucky. Those customers forgave me because of the way I think I approached the problem. Um, it was one of the worst experiences I've gone through. Um, and then I sold my other company and to a partnership, and that did not work out, and I had to repossess that business. That was not my most fun moment. It was very not fun. It was a very, very difficult year until I was able to go through arbitration and win, essentially, win lawyers' fees, basically. And so that's how I ended up starting the second window cleaning business. I had actually started a coffee shop with another neighbor who had an inn, and I left that to go to get the window cleaning up and running so I could sell it again.
Yeah,
That was
so don't
fun.
get into partnerships.
Well, I'm in a partnership now and it's great. Have very clear rules when you go into partnerships, and it's always a good idea to have one partner have more percentage, even just a little, or have somebody else have a 1% of it, because that's where the problems really are.
Well, that comes back to the book E Myth.
Oh yeah, I love
Writing
email.
down every job
Yeah.
description, and then you write down what you're taking over, and what
Yes,
you're in charge of, and one person has to be the CEO and the other one is not. You're still equal, but one has to be in charge versus the other, and
yeah,
and having it in writing, and even getting a lawyer behind it to make sure that
absolutely.
you don't get stupid with it.
And we had all of those things. I mean, I was selling, but the thing I did was I financed it. That's where I had the issues because if you finance something and a partnership falls apart, it's you're on the hook.
Right.
So that's
Right.
what I was fighting for. So that was like those are my two big issues. I'm sure I have more, but I always say I'm an entrepreneur because I'm an optimist with a bad memory. And what that basically means is anytime something bad happens to me, I might remember the thing, but I don't remember the feelings. It doesn't stay with me. It's just a learning experience. The good things I've learned in business have come to me later because I was very old school. I was taught old school, but I've always had a desire to be more, right, than what I started with. And so, reading, I'm not great with reading, but I'm great with audible books on tape. So, a lot of listening to podcasts, of course. And the two books that really, well, three books that really affected me were, of course, The E Myth. That was the first business book I ever read. And I was like, this is amazing, but it doesn't teach you how to actually do the stuff he's talking about. And that kind of made me fumble for years. And then I also read, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of my other favorite book. Well, let me move past that one. The next one that I love is Profit First. That changed my whole business financially. It changed the way I look at money because as somebody with ADD, one of the things we don't like is like the details of finance. But I can manage percentages. Like I can look at money as percentages very easily, but I can't look at it as a whole bunch of numbers on a page. So the first year I enacted that in my business, it was amazing. I ended up with a huge pile of money at the end of the year. It didn't feel like I had made any changes, but I did. And they were very, so anyway, anybody who hasn't read or listened to that book really should, especially if you struggle with the money and do intuitive money management, as I used to do, intuitive budgeting, just kind of remembering the numbers in your head as you go along and thinking, oh, I have enough in my bank account to cover that.
Right. Yeah, that's a good. Both of those books I highly recommend anybody. And the other one is Pumpkin Plan, which is another one from Mike
Yes,
Kalinski's, another
that's a great one.
great book to know of.
Hmm.
Where is your profits at? What's getting rid of the suckers and growing
Finding
big
your
some.
best customer and
Yeah,
then working for those people.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
definitely two great books. Three great
Oh,
books.
one more book I will say is The Dream Manager. When I read that book, it really was everything I had been looking for. To because I love the part. I actually love managing employees. I love coaching and mentoring employees, and so that book gave me a formula for how to help them in achieve their goals. And I actually found a dream manager last year for my company, and unfortunately, COVID kind of shut everything down.
I'm gonna write that book down because I have not listened to that book because I'm like you. I can't read books. I just
Yeah, I can't read,
So
but
that sounds like a good book. And I also
it's
had another
awesome.
question. You
Yeah,
mean you actually still got to coach and mentor your employees? Why do you got to do that for?
that's the best part. So
You
you
mean
have,
you just can't tell them once and they just get it done right the
uh,
first time?
I mean, you can try, but that does not work. I found that when I finally took the time to actually think about the culture I was trying to create and to begin to be very, very clear about how I was going to create that, everything changed. This is only again in the past couple of years. And a lot of this has to do with business being coached personally and also watching people who are doing it a lot better than me and finally getting it in my head that like, oh yeah, that's going to work for me too. So one of the things that I did 2 years ago or last year is we have a hallway in our office, and you know how you can have one person whose mood can make or break everybody else's mood in the company. I call them the life suckers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to hire those people. I try never to hire a person like that. But if we do accidentally end up with somebody who could go that route, I created a hall of positivity that people walk through when they came in the morning. It was filled with very cheesy and some good ones, but just like quotes all over the walls, And I said, the minute you walk through that hall, you leave all your shit over there from before, and you come in here and you come in ready to embrace the day, and to do what we're doing. And that actually did make a difference, something silly like that. The other thing that made a huge difference is having very regular employee meetings. Every Monday, we had an employee meeting. It had a We had a whole template for it. So every week we would read all of the great reviews we got. If we had a problem or an issue, we would go over the corrections. And it wasn't about blame, it was about like learning. We would ask each other questions about, just to get to know each other better. It really got the team to be tighter than I've ever had a team. And when we were going through COVID, it my employees stayed. They stayed alongside with me. And I think I heard from them. I don't think I heard from them. I wouldn't have stayed with you if you didn't, if not for the way that you ran the company. Like if you weren't who you are, but it's really how I did run things. Simple things like that. I never thought I had time to have a company meeting before. I know the thing where we feel like, oh, we got to rush, we got to get out there. But you do have the time, and it actually saves you so much time because you can go over all of the things that are kind of all over the place. Like if somebody makes a mistake, sometimes we don't remember to talk about it with the whole crew.
Mhm.
So that was a big thing.
That's a good points to hit on because that Monday morning meeting is huge. That is
Yeah,
something that can, whether you do it Monday morning, any end of the week,
whatever
do it a
day.
couple times a week. I
Yeah,
think that's one of those things that you can also bring everybody together, and
yeah,
you build that community, you build that family, and people
absolutely.
wanting to be there, not just this is a job and it sucks. And that when you bring it in, reading in the reviews, that helps
Yeah,
want your other employees want their review read, so they want to make sure that
absolutely.
they're trying to get 5-star reviews. And then, like you said, the whole thing of, hey, this is what happened. Crap happens at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I break stuff.
Yes.
I maybe it's a callback. And when you go over those things of what could we have done better, a
Yep.
lot of times we find out it's you didn't follow protocol or something.
Mhm.
And that goes back to you know having that checklist and making sure
Yeah,
that they do everything. There's a reason why I
absolutely.
put everything on that checklist is so that way when that employee goes out, and usually when you start finding the root of problems, they didn't follow the check sheet. And
Yep.
so if they quit following it, probably Bobby over here quit following it too. So that's
Yeah.
the importance of going down through there and touching all of those steps and making sure that it's all getting done. It's not about the blame game. It's going to
Mhm.
happen. I mean, I've tore up enough stuff in my days that
Oh, yeah.
it just happens.
It's
So
part of
that
doing business.
exactly.
One thing that did also help me, I'm not good at saying I need somebody in between me and my employees because I like to say yes to everybody. And what I realized is I tried an experiment. I hired an operations manager who was simply an employee who I thought was very responsible. And I said, "Hey, do you want to make $2 an hour extra and be the operations manager? Here's all the things you'll be in charge of." They basically became in charge of making sure the vans were clean, making sure that anything with maintenance was taken care of, telling the employees where they needed to go in the morning. It took off all of this stuff because if there's nobody in between you and employees, a lot of stuff can happen where like it's easier for an operations person or you know to say, those are just the rules, I don't make them, than to have somebody come to me and say, like, why is this, the way, can I just not do it this one time? And I'm not good at saying no. And then I say, well, okay, this one time. Well, that one time turns into every time. So I
Well,
set up things for myself to protect everybody,
Well,
basically.
and that goes back to, talking about what I was talking about before, $2 more an hour. So now we're at $20 an hour, 18, 20, 25. dollar task versus you can think about working on that $1,000 an hour task,
Oh
and
yeah,
we're not piddling around with the stuff that we don't need to be piddling with. Most people out there, if you put them in charge, they will do better than what you can do if you give them a little
absolutely.
bit of help, and like you were saying, coach, and
Yes.
they want you to grow, they want the business to grow, and that
Yep.
is the importance of that.
Oh, it's huge. I don't think I even recognized how big that would be and how much they would step up because I had two different ops managers over the past 2 years. It's just a name, it doesn't mean they were scared, like they felt like they couldn't do it, but it also gave them a lot of confidence
Hmm.
because they totally could do it and they were better at it than me. I can't do everything. I can't be good at everything. So I gave away the things I'm not good at.
And that's a good point that we're going to move to the next thing here of doing paying somebody to do things that you don't want to do. So you had sold your pressure washing business last year, and now what are you doing?
So I sold the window cleaning pressure washing. And the reason I did that is because I had the holiday lights business that I had bought from a friend last year as well. And with COVID, it was so crazy. And I remember telling my husband before holiday light season, I'm like, don't worry, it's not going to be a big deal. Megan's running this company and I'll be having the VA helping with Christmas lights and I have a good crew. It'll be fine. It was just chaos because that's what Christmas season is. I've heard it over and over again and it's very true. And running two businesses at the same time was a lot. So I knew I was ready to get out of window cleaning and house washing quite a while ago because, like I said, I had come back in to restart it and then never left again because I was doing well. And I wanted to really focus on doing things that I really love. So I love making people feel happy. So I love Christmas lights. But then when I sold the business, literally like the next day or the next week, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with the rest of those 8 months? Because I'm not a person who can sit still. And I was thinking originally, oh, I'll do more work on my house and spend more time with my kids. And so I started another business. But the reason was because I like to help people. I teamed up. I've been hiring virtual assistants, as I told you, over many years as on a project basis, through Fiverr or through Upwork, whatever. But my business coach had been bugging me and telling me, Melody, you've got to hire a full-time VA. It's going to change your life. And eventually I did, and it did change my life. And I found out that I'm very good at it. So I started a virtual assistant recruiting company for the home service industry to help people find and even train, if they want help with training, their virtual assistant to take over the tasks so that they can get their time back.
So
Um,
what all can a VA do?
a VA literally can do anything that an in person office manager could do, with the exception of getting the mail and running errands for you. But they can do your email, your phone calls. Um, I the more that I went into this world, the more I discovered they literally can do everything. But a VA can do everything, or they can do anything, but they can't do everything, is what I mean to say. Just like the rest of us, they're only humans. So there's some things that people are really good at, and then there's some things you have to eventually hire other people to do, just like in business. So I had my VA for Christmas lights last year, creating the training systems, creating all of our quotes, customizing them for customers, going on Google Maps and plotting the houses and the map of the property for the customer quotes, and doing all sorts of things, researching. My window cleaning VA was doing phone calls and emails. And so you might be thinking, or somebody might be thinking, well, they can't do what I do because like they wouldn't do it the way I do it. They will do it just the way you do it because you will train them to do it that way, which leads me to the next part of people get really scared about training people because they're not good at that part. They don't know how to explain what they do. One of the easiest tricks to train somebody or to train a virtual assistant is next time you're sending emails, use a screen recording software like Loom, press record, and just start recording yourself sending emails. Now, it's good if you talk along as you send the email and say, like, this is how I would respond to a customer who does this. They will watch that video and learn how you work. They will also go into your email box and they will start to write templates based on how you've written emails in the past. So there's all sorts of things that they can do for you based on one video to get started, or just looking through your inbox. Um,
So with the VA, they can do all kinds of things. I mean, I have a VA that does all my videos and all of that kind of stuff. I've had VAs doing different things. I know one of the guys is in my Voxer program. He does a VA. He actually hired through you. And she puts everything in Jobber. She's answering the phone. She's doing a lot of stuff that's getting done. This is a guy that has grown a business, of a family business of 25 years. His dad, he bought it. He'd been taking it over about 7, 8 years. And before this, he was in paper and pen and
yeah,
living in California and making good money, but not making what he could make. And so, and a lot of it was when I would start asking him things, I'd be like, well, how much is your average ticket? I don't know. What is this? I don't know. Have you ever emailed your customers? No, don't have no system in that. And so he
it's
he
systems.
started with the VA from wherever you had hired him from, and now all these systems are coming into play, and now he's growing his business and is going to scale it way more than he would have by not doing these steps.
Well,
And
he just
so,
had a baby. He needs time. So,
and
yeah, it.
and he's another one that's ADD, and it's got to be
Oh, yeah,
perfect. But it's one of those things that you got to do the things. And I hear a lot of times I hear,
yeah,
well, I know another one of the guys is Nick Sick from Illinois pressure washing is another one of, well, I ain't got time for that. Well,
yeah.
you're spending hours on hours of doing it bastardized ways versus putting somebody in there and helping you and getting those things done.
Or, I mean, that's just an excuse, and I can say that because I was all of those people. Um, I used to be exactly the same way. I would procrastinate on all of the things that needed to be actually done, and I would call it that I don't have enough time when really I don't want to put my time into that. Or a lot of times VAs can do the tasks better than you can because they actually like to do the tasks they're doing.
And a
And
lot of them are they have doctorates,
oh yeah,
they are very intelligent, they have
highly
doctorates, they have
educated.
all kinds of different the college, everything at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, they are overqualified often for the jobs that we're giving them. But it means that most of the time, they're very intuitive and efficient about the work that needs to be done, and they learn very quickly. Um, I will say, though, that if you're somebody, most business people have some level of ADD. And if you're somebody like that, it can be very hard to create systems because it seems almost impossible to figure out how you do the things that you do. Even I struggle sometimes still, but it's actually very simple. If you just record or video, all of those types of things that are easy for people with ADD to do, like I can easily record a video, I can easily record a screen recording. Then you have your VA turn that into a process sheet. You don't have to be the one who makes that. Have somebody else do that for you because that's not what you're good at. You just need to give them the information and allow them to create the process out of it. So there's a
And
lot of
and
cheats and
And what
hacks.
are some things that can be done? I mean, we're talking website building, we're talking SEO, we're talking running your Facebook. There's a lot of things that VAs can do. And most of the time, if you're hiring a company to do what I just said, they've got VAs doing this work for them. There's not
Yeah,
many people that are going to be building websites and all of that. They've hired it out
yeah.
from somebody else.
That's the secret to, I think, any successful entrepreneur who looks like they're doing it all. They have a bunch of VAs behind them, I am quite certain, because nobody can do all of it. I think Tim Ferriss in the 4 Hour Work Week was pointing that out quite a long time ago when he wrote that book. So
Let's hit on this one here. What
yeah.
is a VA?
So a virtual assistant is somebody who lives in a different country who basically will take on your office work for you. They will learn all of the ways that you do things, and then they will be your office manager essentially without being in your office. We hire, so I own a company called homeserviceva.com. We hire people from the Philippines because my business partner is Filipino, but also because they speak American English there. They are very hardworking people, and it's very inexpensive to hire from the Philippines. We start our VAs at $5 an hour. And depending on how specialized a VA you need, it can go from $5 to $15 an hour. Most VAs, though, start at between 5 and 6, and some people even start lower than that. But I feel like that's not a living wage. And you want to take care of people. If you're going to hire somebody, you want them to stay with you, then you take care of them. They'll stay. They'll be loyal. So that's the main reason, is because people, and it's not just in the Philippines. There's India. You can go on Upwork, and people are all over the world are virtual assistants. But it can feel daunting at first to hire somebody that you don't know. It can feel hard to trust them. But you would have to learn to trust an office manager the same way. Use software to protect your passwords like LastPass. So they don't have your passwords, but they can access your software. And most virtual assistants, they're not going to steal anything from you because they want a job. They don't want a business. How are they going to run your business, without you? So you guys kind of have to create trust together because they're trusting you to pay them, right? And it's a great working relationship when you find the right one. And you can work with agencies who you can either hire freelance on sites like Upwork or Fiverr or onlinejobs.ph. You can hire an agency to kind of manage the administrative parts of it so that the agency would pay the VA for you. They would take care of anything. They kind of teach them how to do the work. But you're still going to be having to deal with the management of the VA that, they're working for you. We are not an agency. We're somebody who finds the right fit for you. So you pay us a fee, but then the VA is yours after we onboard. The reason we chose that is because I feel like when you hire an agency, I didn't want to manage 100 VAs under us. I wanted to be able to help more people and just to be able to get people onboarded, to get them figuring out how to train their VA and to get in a good situation, and then move on to the next person to help them. And, with an agency, you end up paying a higher cost because they have to cover their costs, and VAs end up making less money. So I just feel like for us, recruiting like this is a better option and better for everybody.
So with the VA, they are very good workers. They love, like you say, they don't want to own their own business of that. And a lot of times people be like, they're only making $5 an hour. But over in the Philippines, $5 an hour is actually pretty well for
Living
them.
wage.
Is a
Yeah,
living wage over there.
wage. Yep. So
So, what are some tips of looking for a VA? How do I need to know how do I know that if I need a VA?
okay. I think everybody probably does need a VA because even if you just started your business last week, if you had a little extra money, if you had $200 that you could be putting towards a VA who could be cold calling places or, email marketing for you, like that would be worth the money. But let's say you have a business where you're doing, like for me, I used to go out, work in the field, come home at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock at night, spend like a million hours on the phone. I felt like my kid would be yelling at me. I just felt like I was working 24/7 because I was a workaholic. And if you're somebody who wants to not listen to your wife be mad at you anymore because you're never with her and the kids, or you want to be able to work on the higher level business things that we oftentimes never do, like we never take care of those things, that's when you really want to have a VA. And they can, if you're spending like 15, 20 hours a week just emailing customers, you're going to get immediately 15 to 20 hours of your time back. Like that's huge right there. So the way that I tell people to do it is to think of the tasks that are going to be the easiest tasks to give over to a VA or to train somebody to do, that are going to give you the most time back immediately, so that somebody can immediately get started with it, so that you can begin to have your time. And then from there, you kind of you prioritize the tasks that you do in order of like urgency. Do you need somebody to take over phone calls because you hate talking on the phone? That's urgent. Marketing, you might like marketing, that's not as urgent. If you like something and you're good at it, you shouldn't probably give that away right away. Give away the things you don't like and that you're not good at.
Right. No, that's a good point because a lot of times we don't realize what we need to do to get rid of stuff because we're like, well, I got to do this, this, and this, and this, and we can do that.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
How? So, what is the process of it? Like, how do we have to pay them? How does all that work? Part of it.
So it's interesting because it's kind of a gray area financially, and it benefits us. But virtual assistants are just contractors, subcontractors, basically. And they're not, and they just are, so you don't pay taxes on them. You don't pay anything. You don't even really report them. You report them under other expenses if you're an LLC or an S Corp. So it's just a business expense, but it doesn't count as an employee. So I pay my VAs online through a site called Wise. It used to be TransferWise. And you can use PayPal, anything that can transfer money internationally. I like Wise because usually I'm not paying more than a $3 fee to transfer money. And it goes right into their bank account within 30 minutes. So it's direct deposit. So that's an easy part. What the other thing is, I really recommend that before somebody considers getting a VA, you start to think about, you make the list of all the tasks you want to get rid of first, just 10 tasks, whatever it might be. And then that becomes your training list. When you're doing those tasks, make a quick video, put it on a spreadsheet, what the link to the video is, and then you've got your training put together already. Because if you do that before you get the VA, then they come in, they watch those videos, and they're ready to start doing the work. So there are a couple things you need to do to prepare, but even if you don't, for instance, sometimes I've hired VAs before we were ready to have them. I always have them go learn the software, the customer management software. And usually there's tons of information online, videos that the CRM has created. I would rather have a VA become an expert, but more expert than I am on a software so that they can know all of the things and I never have to worry. And it's worth the 20 hours that you give them to do that, or 10 hours, to become that expert.
So what are obviously how do you help us get a VA, or how does that work? Like, do you find the person? So I write this list down and I give you that list and then you're going to
No.
find that, or how does that
So,
work?
so how it works is you would go onto our website, onlineva.com. You would choose your package. We have 3 different packages based on how much help you need. There are some people who are really good at training who could just know how to do this immediately and can handle it all themselves. So we're really just recruiting. We're just finding the right fit for them. We have a questionnaire where we ask a lot of questions about what they're looking for, what tasks they want them to do, like in order of importance. But also, we ask a lot of questions so that about pay and what they're willing to pay, so that we can put that into the contract for them and for the VA, a work contract. So it's kind of like an employee manual that they end up with at the end. So on the front end, we're trying to do some of the back end work. We also give both the client and their eventual VA DISC assessments so that we can make sure that we're matching people who have complementary behavioral and personal styles, and we give them a cheat sheet of how to work best with each other. So we do all of the work. Once we have that questionnaire that the person has filled out, we get started looking for the right match for them based on the tasks they have, based on the requirements they've asked for. And then we find that person usually within a week. and then we either set them free, we introduce them, or in our pro package we actually create a training plan that we go over with both of them. Or if you're an executive who has no time whatsoever and doesn't want to deal with any of it, we'll actually spend 40 hours training the VA for you. So there's different levels. And I'm also coming out with a class soon for people who maybe can't afford those services but want to learn a lot about, how to have a VA. And it'll teach you basically everything I know.
What if how many hours do I need to pay for a VA? Can I get one at part time, like only maybe 5 or 10 hours a week, or how does that
You
work?
can do it project basis. I found that it does not work as well, because if you're having a VA working for you 10 hours, that means they're working somewhere else, sometimes two other jobs, and their attention is not going to be only on you. What is your time, like how many pressure washing jobs does it really take to pay somebody $270 a week? One, not even one. It is worth one pressure washing job to have somebody working 40 hours a week for you on things that you didn't even think you'd ever get to. It's not just the things that you're doing now, like the email, the phone calls. It can be marketing on MailChimp, or finding your customers' email addresses. It can be all sorts of things that people haven't even thought of yet. We do help people to think of those things, though, because we do want them to be successful.
What is probably one of the biggest things that you find that VAs for, or for customers in the service? You mainly focus on the service business side. What are like some of the main tasks that you find VAs for?
Oh, well, it's definitely for email. That's a huge one. I should have
What
brought
do you
that.
mean by email? Like email
Oh,
marketing of returning
so
emails, or finding
anything.
emails
So
and
for
sending them?
customer emails, returning customer emails, setting up appointments. And I had my employee, my VAs setting up appointments in Responsibid, putting in quotes, I mean, in Responsibid, setting up appointments with customers. These are all things that do require you to have a system in place. But again, if you do it for yourself, you can set up a system. It's already kind of a system, and probably imperfect system, but you can have your VA take over that and even improve those systems sometimes. I we do mail, so like MailChimp marketing, they would send out the things. I have a VA who does all of our social media management right now, um, and also does pretty much anything else we need. So they can do everything. I'm trying to think of sales is one of the things that I think people think about a lot, and they can do a lot with sales, believe it or not. Like with Responsibid, for instance, they can go on Google or one of the roofer apps or whatever and outline roofs and measure houses and do the research on Realtor or the MLS or whatever. That's the kind of stuff that takes a lot of time. And sometimes, if you want to do it right, that they can just do. And that was very helpful to me.
Well, guys, this right here is how you grow and scale your business. A lot of times we think that it's equipment, it's all this other crap, but in the end, this is the stuff that will grow and scale your business. Getting these little details off of your plate, whether you hire a VA that's in the Philippines, or you hire an employee and she's answering the phone and doing that stuff. And a lot of times you can get, again, and like you said, for $270 a week, you're going to get somebody that is got a PA and whatever, or PhD
Yeah,
doctorate and stuff. It's crazy what you can get for it. Again, this right here is what's going to be the difference from you scaling it and you not scaling your business. Because a lot of times, just the marketing alone, you can find a VA that can do blog posts, that can work
yeah,
on your website, that's posting all your social media stuff. And guess what that's doing? That's growing your business. That's what's going to take you to the next level. It isn't about, well, how do I clean this? How do I clean that? That's not what's going to scale your business, or what piece of equipment I need. That's not going to scale your business. What's going to scale your business and grow it and get it to the next level is this right here, hiring people that can do things, and you're being profitable at the end of the day. Because who can't afford $270? That's one
Yeah.
house wash.
Yeah. I will give one last tip about having an in-person assistant. If somebody wants to hire an in-person office assistant, make sure it's somebody that you can cross-train to do your work as well, to be in the field. I did that many, many times with women. And what it did is if somebody called in sick, that person was able to go out and work in the field, and I was not the next line of defense anymore. It's really effective, and I highly recommend it.
Here's a good question that Truth Seeker. How would you keep track of quality control for the VAs? I know they speak English, but are they fluent? Ultra
Yes.
fluent.
So everybody in the Philippines learns English as a second language, American English. Accent can be an issue sometimes for people, but the way that you keep track of what people do, you can either ask them to send you an email every day with what they do. That's one thing you should do anyway. You should know what they're doing. We use Slack all day. We're communicating through Slack and different channels. And they have software out there. I think Time Doctor is one of them, where you can get a VA logs in, and then they're getting screenshots taken of their screen at various times. It's random, so you can see what they're looking at on their screen to keep track of what the work is that they're doing. You can see if they're actually working on stuff for you during their work hours. So there's a lot of ways to make sure that you can measure their and keep them accountable. um, it does take some trial and error in the beginning if you've never done it before, to figure out, kind of what the metrics are going to be for them. But it's totally doable.
That's a good question. Wild Wild West, but the Filipino people are very fluent in English and tag along.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, again, I'm not going to hold you on here forever. I like to be at an hour. Again, don't get off here just yet because I want to say thank you after this. But I appreciate everybody coming on. If you want to try to get, or if you want 30 days free, go check out pressurewashhelp.com/free. And you get 30 days in my membership where you can learn everything from marketing to pressure washing, everything you need to know to grow a business. I grew my business to over $1 million and sold it. And now I give you my information. Also, I'm having an in-person training in August the 6th and 7th, I believe it is, in Connecticut. One day is all pressure washing, how to grow a business, the hands-on portion of pressure washing. And day 2 is Christmas lights, how to grow a Christmas light business. So this was probably, I love this video right here because this right here is how people can scale their business. This is the stuff that takes you to the next level. A lot of times we worry about all the little stuff, and this is the little stuff that we can get off our plate, open our mind so we can do the things we need to do. So again, thank you for coming on, Melody. It was awesome. You gave some gold nuggets here. So
Thank you.